one day somebody does something unspeakable to someone else, to someone you hardly knew, and you do something about it because you can.
We get this story from the New York Times. Chicago City Council members agreed on Thursday to pay $90 million to 180 people who said they were victims of a unit with corrupt police officers who fabricated evidence, charged drug dealers a street tax, and falsely arrested people at a public housing complex in the early 2000s. I did the editorial on this one. Yeah. The original when they got arrested. Approval of the settlement, which is expected to be paid next year, came as Chicago's schools, transit network, and pension funds were already facing foundational budget problems. Still, many city council members described the agreement as a relative bargain given the quantity of lawsuits and the seriousness of the allegations against, here, I did this guy, former Sergeant Ronald Watts. Remember that editorial? And other officers who worked on his South Side tactical team. Quote, I almost think not enough is being made about what a staggeringly good outcome this is for the taxpayers of the city of Chicago, said Bill Conway, a city council member. He said that earlier this month when the committee advanced the settlement proposal. Yeah, he said the taxpayers, you got a good deal.
I'd buy that for $1.
Taxpayers in Chicago, the country's third largest city, have repeatedly been asked to pay out multi-million-dollar sums to cover allegations of police misconduct and to settle lawsuits stemming from police shootings, the taxpayers. All the while, the city has raised property taxes, faced budget shortfalls, and struggled to reckon with pension liabilities. The cases involving Mr. Ronald Watts began to come to light in 2012, and federal prosecutors accused him and a colleague, Officer Khalat Mohammed, of stealing what the two men believed to be drug money. Both men pleaded guilty to stealing government funds and were sentenced to stints in federal prison. In the years that followed, scores of people came forward with claims that they had been wrongly arrested by Mr. Ronald Watts and Mr. Khalat Mohammed or other members of their South Side police team. Those plaintiffs, many of whom had been convicted and sentenced to prison, described a vast, long-running conspiracy in which Mr. Ronald Watts and officers he worked with manufactured evidence and falsely accused people of drug crimes at the Ida B. Wells public housing complex on Chicago's South Side. I did the story on this. Local prosecutors ultimately moved to vacate hundreds of convictions tied to Ronald Watts and his team. As the old criminal cases were dismissed, new federal lawsuits piled up, faulting the city for failing to stop Ronald Watts' team from wrongly arresting people and manufacturing criminal charges. City officials said the settlement approved on Thursday would be split among plaintiffs who had collectively spent at least 182 years in prison based on fabricated evidence presented by Ronald Watts and his tactical team. All convictions tied to those arrests have been vacated, city officials said, and most of the plaintiffs have received certificates of innocence. Quote, the longer these cases remain unresolved, the more expensive closure becomes, driven largely by the potential for extraordinarily large jury awards, rising settlement costs, and mounting attorney fees, said Mary B. Richardson Lowry, who's a lawyer for the city. The Chicago Police Department has long struggled to build and maintain trust with the residents. I guess since Al Capone, right? The department superintendent, Larry Snelling, said in a statement that the cases involved in this settlement do not represent the Chicago Police Department of today. Yeah, right. And that we are continuously implementing safeguards to strengthen accountability and supervision. Stop blowing smoke up our butts. A lawyer for Ronald Watts, Ahmed Kosoko, said his client did not wish to comment on the settlement. Ahmed Kosoko, or is it Kosoko, said its client's role in the cases being settled had been misunderstood and distorted. In many of those arrests, Mr. Kosoko said Ronald Watts' limited involvement where any existed at all was administrative and supervisory. Doesn't matter if he was involved, he's complicit. He was involved. Or if he was complicit, he's involved. He's guilty. He pled guilty. He's convicted. Like he pled guilty. It's not like, well, the justice system rode me up the railroad. No, you pled guilty, dude. If you thought you were being railroaded, you should have pled not guilty and took it to a jury. But you knew you was wrong. Watts. Huh? And it's interesting to note, and I've said this before, when these cops screw up, who gets to pay? You do, Chicago residents, the taxpayers. And you say, we pay taxes anyway. Yeah, but they're rising property taxes now. Why are they raising property taxes? Because they got to pay for these lawsuits.